What's up, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're talking arms, specifically how to get lean, not bulky arms. Now I want to have a little chat real quick about this word bulky, okay, because this has become a very controversial, touchy word in the realm of women's fitness, okay, because as the saying goes, weightlifting will not make you bulky, and for the most part I agree with this, okay, but since losing weight this past year and since making, I guess, a rather significant transformation, I'll throw up one that kind of shows my arms here, I have had a lot of women reach out to me, and one of the biggest takeaways I have had is that bulk is a highly individual thing. So yes, while it will be difficult to gain a significant amount of muscle, while it will be near impossible to naturally gain as much muscle as a female bodybuilder, like that visual that everyone seems to have in their mind of what they'll look like if they start lifting weights, bulk is something that's bulky is going to depend on your personal preference. And I think it's also important to remember that muscle is going to look different on everybody. So my goal of today's video is to explain what affects the size and shape of your arms, the specific changes that I made to my routine in order to decrease the size of my arms, as well as how I recommend working these changes into your own routine. So if you're excited for this video, make sure you shoot me a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, okay? That way you will never miss a video from me. To give you a little bit of background, I do not think that I have bulky arms. Based on my personal preference, I love how my arms look right now. Like they're long, they're lean, they're toned, I'm feeling myself. Now that said, I know that there are gonna be some women out there who think that my arms are too big, and likewise, is that the right word? On the other hand, there are going to be other women who think that my arms are too small, all right? This is why personal preference is important. It's literally your body. You're the only one who gets to live in this body, and so you should sculpt it as you, not the random other people out there, see fit. Now, not too long ago, I felt that my arms had gotten too big. Okay, so to put this into perspective, I have been lifting weights for 6-7-ish years now, and most of that time I did spend focusing on growing my legs, growing my booty, you know, the standard, but there was one year in particular where I was focused on specifically growing my arms. Basically, I'd been growing my lower body for so long that I felt that I had started to become uneven top to bottom, and something that really bothered me, especially when I was lean, was that I felt like my arms looked so long and skinny, and I kid you not, when I looked at them, all I could think of was Kermit the Frog. Like, I would see a picture of myself and I'd be like, oh, Kermit the Frog, just paint me green, I look exactly the same. Now, at the same time, I had just stopped competing in bodybuilding, and little did I know, over the course of that next year, I was going to pack on, I think it was somewhere between 30 and 40 pounds, okay? So not only were my arms gaining a considerable amount of size from all the extra workouts I was doing, but I was also gaining quite a bit of fat. And this resulted in my arms getting too big or too bulky for my personal preference. So it wasn't just that the weight went straight to my arms, 30 to 40 pounds straight to your arms would be crazy, but it was the combination of the added muscle as well as the added fat overall that created this appearance. Flash forward to now, over the course of the past few months, I have lost nearly 20 pounds, which is still so crazy to me and so weird to visualize, but along the way, I've also made some pretty big changes to my training, okay, specifically in the way that I train arms. If you'd like to learn more about how I lost the weight, I actually have a very in-depth video on this that I will link down in the description box below, but from the training side of things, I figured the best way to explain this would be to start with the muscle anatomy of your arms, okay, so what's actually making your arms bigger, and then from there, explain the different ways you can target this, as well as how I'd recommend pairing these exercises within your routine. Okay, so it's not that you can't ever train arms again. I'm just going to explain a few strategic shifts you can make so that your training is working for you, not against you. The area that most women find too big is the upper arm, which can be broken down into biceps on the front and triceps on the back. Focusing on the biceps, these support supination of the forearm, think taking the cap off a bottle, and flexion of the elbow, so bring the bottle up to your mouth. In general, exercises that combine these two movements are going to be the most effective for hitting your biceps. That said, if you're not trying to add much size to your arms, you don't necessarily want the most effective exercise. One of the biggest changes I've made is shifting from mostly isolation exercises where biceps are the primary focus to instead doing more compound exercises where they are a secondary focus. One way of doing this is with vertical pulling exercises, so think pull-ups or lat pull-downs. A common belief is that using an underhand or supinated grip will hit your biceps better. However, as evidenced by a 2004 study, this isn't necessarily true. Matter of fact, underhand and overhand grips performed about the same when it came to bicep activity. If anything, the width of your grip is more important. This was shown in a 2014 study where they compared wide, medium, and narrow overhand grips with lat pull-downs. And they found that more bicep muscle activity was produced by the medium grip on the pulling down concentric portion of the range of motion. I'm going to include a couple sample workouts in the description box below, but I recommend adding 1 to 2 vertical pulling exercises to your routine. If you want more of a bicep focus, try including more medium grip variations, whereas if you want less of a bicep focus, try more narrow or wide grip variations. Basically, don't do the medium grip. If you're looking to mix up your standard lat pull down, I highly recommend looking for this variation of the machine pull down. So as compared to the regular pull down, you still have your knees locked in place, but many machines will also have some sort of chest or upper body support. So that way you're locked in place, you can lean into it, you don't have to focus on where your chest is moving, you just focus on your muscles at work. As you'll notice, some machines do move on an arc, which allows you to get a larger stretch at the top and a stronger squeeze at the bottom. So if you ever see one of these or if your gym has one, don't shy away from it, I definitely recommend using it. Another way of including compound movements in your routine is with horizontal pulling exercises. So think inverted rows, bent over rows, pretty much any variation of a row. Now, a common belief with not just biceps is that unstable training or training that requires more stabilization will get better muscle engagement. This isn't necessarily true, as oftentimes what happens is that other muscle groups will jump in to help stabilize rather than actually getting more bang for your buck from the muscles you're trying to target. This is evidenced by a 2013 study where they compared suspension trainers, so think like a TRX type setup, and stable barbell inverted rows to find that the stable variation produced a lot more bicep activity. Another study investigated the effect of angle of pull. So this basically describes how the weight is positioned relative to the muscles that you're going to be using to move that weight. In the case of an inverted row, this means if you are more diagonal or horizontal relative to the bar. And they found that a more horizontal body angle produced greater bicep activity. Now, what was interesting about this to me is that when you're in a more horizontal angle with the inverted row, you're actually supporting more of your body weight. So this finding may have less to do with the actual angle of pull and more to do with how much weight you're actually moving. As promised, I'll be linking those sample workouts down below, but in addition to the vertical pulling exercises, I also recommend adding 1 to 2 horizontal pulling exercises to your routine. If you want more bicep focus, do stable exercises with a more horizontal angle of pull and or heavier weight. Versus if you want less of a bicep focus, try less stable exercises with a less of a horizontal angle of pull and or lighter weight. If you're looking to mix up your standard rowing movements, I highly recommend trying the chest-supported row or a chest-supported rowing machine. Different machines will have different adjustment options, but a good rule of thumb is to set the chest support so your arms are fully extended but not locked when you grab the grips. With this being a video about arms, it would not be complete unless I touched on isolation exercises. So think bicep curls and every variation of them out there. When I was trying to add size to my arms, I had a whole training day dedicated to these exercises each week. And the mistake I made was that I was doing this plus hitting back 1 to 2 times per week with compound movements like pull downs, pull-ups, rows, basically everything we've discussed up until now. So I wasn't just hitting biceps once per week, but really 2 to 3 times when you understand that compound movements still hit these muscles. So as compared to before, I now do way less bicep isolation exercises. If anything, I'll throw them onto the end of my workout as a finisher or just to get a pump kind of for fun, but I'm not really pushing it with the weight. I'm not following any sort of structured program for my biceps because they're not a muscle group that I'm trying to grow. To keep it fun, I'll switch up my variations week to week. The easiest way to do this is to look for exercises that have different shoulder joint angles, because as the research shows, this has a direct impact on bicep activity throughout the range of motion. Even though I don't do much isolation bicep work anymore, the machine preacher curl is still one of my favorites because it takes an exercise that I've always found awkward and makes it a whole lot easier to get set up with. So if you've ever wanted to try this, I highly recommend using the machine instead of the bench. Another great exercise for isolating your biceps is the dumbbell incline curl. This is still, even though I don't do much bicep work, one of my favorite exercises because of how much of a stretch it gets in your biceps at the bottom of the movement. Even when I was training biceps a lot more, this exercise never failed to leave me sore. And finally, I got one more bicep exercise for you to try is the easy bar curl. And if you remember the function of the biceps, it's to supinate the forearm and then flex up at your elbow. So by starting in that position, you're going to make it easier for your biceps to contract and to get a really good pump here. So to summarize the changes I made, first, I switched from doing mostly isolation exercises where biceps were the primary focus to instead doing more compound exercises where they were a secondary focus. The next change I made was because my priority was to lose arm size as quickly as possible. Within those compound movements, I was focusing on variations that had less of a bicep focus, okay? So kind of similar to what we talked about earlier in this video. And third, I've been occasionally throwing bicep isolation exercises onto the end of my workouts just as a little finisher to get a little pump, just for funsies, because who doesn't do that sometimes? But I am not following any sort of progression with these because I'm not trying to actually build strength or build size on my arms. As promised, I am going to be writing out a couple workout examples for you down in the description box below. One of them is going to be a complete upper body workout where you're hitting shoulders, back, basically everything going on up here. And the second is going to be a back-focused workout. All right, think of these more like templates than specific workouts, okay? Because you can swap out the variations to be more or less bicep focused as per the guidelines that I gave you in this video. All right, now I am thinking, so I know sometimes you guys want to see like specific examples, exactly how it works. I am thinking of recording these for my Instagram. So if you actually want to see those workouts in action, see how they work, see the form, all that good stuff, then make sure that you are following me on there as well. Otherwise, if you found this video helpful, make sure you shoot me a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. All right, I am literally so excited, so excited for the next video I have coming because it's going to include a big announcement update that is going to take this summer sculpt series in a rather new but very cool direction that I think we're all gonna like. I won't say any more for now, all right? But that video will be going up in the next couple days. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you have that little bell notification thing checked, marked off, turned on, whatever you wanna call it. Very excited. Thank you for watching. I can't wait to see you in that next video.